Lupe Fiasco, one of the most influential, impactful conscious rappers of our time, gave us an album that is one to remember. Within this album, Drogas Waves, Lupe Fiasco has been able to show us how history can be rewritten and given a different tale to show us the power of people and their perseverance. Lupe Fiasco changed the slave narrative with his Drogas Waves album. In this album, Lupe takes us on a historical journey with different languages, accents, and slave ships to give us a riveting tale on not the demise of African slaves, but their rebirth. From this story, we can see how the Atlantic slave trade has not just been a story of death, but a revitalization of a group of people who are stronger than ever. One of his beginning lyrics, reparations from segregation, is a leading line that steers us into the direction linking past to present. The lyrical ambiguity Lupe takes us on grants the listener the ability to visualize his lyrics with a deep thought or just getting straight to the point. Manila is the first song, delving into how we see the copper alloy bracelets, being Manila, that was used as currency for the purchase of slaves in the African continent. This song gave us a scene of the introduction of a horrific action in which, in terms of Western currency, is useless for the purchase of slaves. Gold versus the right thing to do adds a twist to the tale that gives us and shows us the connection to the West Indies that Lupe was looking for. Through this story, we were able to witness the transaction of the Manila to the beginning journey of slaves across the Atlantic. It is a magnificent story Lupe takes us through, from the stanza of Golden Memories being the transaction the slaves witness. Wave Files is the third song that reflects what one may think as the demise of the slaves, but it is in fact the rebirth or even survival. Lupe takes us through the experiences on the slave ships to then their next steps to shipwreck other slave ships that are traveling across the Atlantic. With a symbolic and anamorph idea, Lupe shows how the underwater slaves connected to the forests, stars, oceans, and seas reflect their survival through tumultuous times when all else seems lost. Lupe's album is split into two parts, with part 1 being Waves and the next part 2, being Drogas. Songs 1 through 9 connects us with the Wave Files, as part 2 is Drogas. In these different parts, what's amazing about this and what is important to remember is that this is in fact a historical journey. In part 1, it is the beginning of the slave trade that has impacted blacks in the Western world. In part 2, he takes us on to more of a present journey in which Drogas shows us where blacks in the Western world are today and what has impacted them. And what is more magnificent about this is that he's able to use lyrics to be able to take you on this journey, and through this journey you can visualize and see exactly what is happening throughout history. Whether it is fact or fiction, this story is something that is magnificent to behold because it allows us to be able to understand history through a different lens. Too many times are we looking at history in history books. Too many times are we listening to history through others' words. However, through Lupe Fiasco, he gives us a perspective in which we can understand it through the eyes of those who may have experienced it. Because the horrific tales that we hear are too many times of those that are once forgotten. However, with this tale, he gives us an idea of those that aren't forgotten, but those that are giving us a spiritual guidance, journey, and strength through the tumultuous times that we do go through. And so moving into part 2, it is more of an artistic idea to see the lens that allows us to be able to visualize it with a different scope. And seeing the connection with Selassie, which is in part 1, and then moving into part 2 of Drogas, Sun God Sam, Stronger, XO, and Don't Mess Up the Children is really the songs in which the transition can be seen being made. But what is most magnificent about this is that as listeners and as fans of Lupe Fiasco, it is not that you want to take everything so literally. You want to be able to now understand things through a different perspective. And this is what he does give us. And what is important to remember here is that as listeners of this music, we really need to rethink about how we visualize and how we listen to history today. And now we live in times in which your interpretation can take you through a journey of your own to where you can begin to understand what your own eyes see. And this is where I hope that everybody who has already or is going to take a listen to this beautiful album that was created, in which we can all take time to appreciate and thank the lyrical visual journey that Lupe Fiasco has taken us on.